This is not a sponsored video. Gear review! Ow, fuck! The DJI Ronin S saw a price reduction recently. Seemingly arbitrary, and I don't really hear a lot of people talking about it. So, let's talk about it. Is the DJI Ronin S worth buying? Here's a few reasons why I would give that a resounding yes. In order to test drive the Ronin S, I shot a fairly impromptu music video with my buddy Alex from the band Conversing with Oceans. He's been on the channel before if the name sounds familiar. A million cool points to you if you comment which video below. That'd be pretty rad. Be sure to show Conversing with Oceans some love. Tell them I sent you. Anyway, the motivation for the shoot was just motion. We wanted the waves, we wanted to use the 360 spin, we followed Alex, we followed the dancer. The whole thing moved a lot. It moved. And I gotta tell you, I'm in love with the footage. Now to give you some context, I shot the whole thing on the Canon 60 Mark II with the 24mm f1.4L lens, so the dual pixel autofocus really helped me out a ton. The whole thing is shot in 60 frames a second slowed down to 23:9:8. It gave us a really interesting effect. I particularly love the motion in the waves. And of course it involved Alex learning how to sing his song in double time. You know, cause slowing down the footage would have changed the speed of the song and the lyrics would have been off. You know how music videos work.
Come in maybe closer.
But the other thing the slow motion did was give us even steadier footage. It took away any sort of micro jitters that might have existed in the footage. That said though, the footage is really stable and worrying about micro jitters to me, it's not that big of a deal. The only place where you really start to see jitters like that is in the up and down region when you're moving quickly. I'm talking like running here. This is a problem with most gimbals though. I think it really comes down to the way you move. If you're running, you know, it's not magic. It's gonna do work for you if you work with it. So I gotta tell you, after that shoot, I was pooped. So my girlfriend Rebecca was nice enough to make me coffee. Alright, I'm kidding, that was a different day and shot for this video, but the Ronin S was a breeze to use. It helps you get really nice, stable shots. And here are some boring technical tests. We're just going to circle around my Canon AE1. We're going to use a 24mm, a 50mm, and an 85mm lens. I'm doing this one so that you guys can get a feel for how the different focal lengths look on the Ronin S. The Ronin S is simple to balance. In fact, I made a video about it. You should watch that too if you buy one. I mean, hey, while you're at it, why not, subscribe? After balancing the gimbal, all the controls you'll need are at your fingertips. The joystick rocks. It's so responsive and it feels very nice. The buttons are all clicky and responsive, especially the trigger. The trigger button is awesome. That said, I don't mean to be a complainer here, but this thing's heavy. It's thick, especially with the 60 Mark II 24mm combo. I mean, jeez. I was going to make a Pornhub forearm strength joke here, but even the most adept, prolific viewers will feel the burn from this gimbal. It's definitely not unmanageable, but if you're using this thing for a few hours, you're gonna feel it. The tripod feeties do help take the load off you, but it's a heavy setup, there's no getting around that, so if that's a concern for you, keep that in mind, that could be a deal breaker. To me though, the weight is just a small price to pay for the performance and control you're getting. Battery life is pretty ridiculous too, it's rated for 12 hours. Now if you're using this thing for 12 hours though, you're gonna die. Like, your arms are gonna fall off. And you know what that means, right? No more Pornhub for you. Regarding the overall build, it's metal, it's sturdy, sleek, and it looks great. The handle is perfectly grippy, and even the tripod feeties collapse to give you a nice secondary grippy point of contact, I guess. I wish the focus wheel was mounted a bit lower though, just to make it more natural to reach with your thumb. Though it hasn't been a huge issue for me since the first few months of owning it, DJI didn't support the camera I own. They didn't even ship the unit with the darn cable. What a joke. People were petitioning DJI to send out the cables for Ronin S users, and that was a good one. I wonder how that worked out. Also, maybe this is just a case of like the 3 a.m. dumb brain, but that advertisement up there, do you think they meant like poop fiber or like website internet fiber? Like fiber optic. And going back to that cable follow focus control thing, got a little distracted there. Even with the latest firmware update, it's still pretty buggy on the Canon cameras. It gets all steppy and jumpy when you move the follow focus. It's not exactly usable. At least not yet anyway. I'm sure there will be an upcoming firmware update that addresses the issue. And since I'm complaining, I might as well throw this one on the table too. After Juan sent me the Weeble Lab gimbal to mess around with, I realized how important their axis lock system actually is. Not only does it help make balancing more simple, the axis lock system also just prevents the gimbal from flopping around while you're transporting it. It's such a simple feature and it's just missing from the Ronin S. Those gimbal locks would also really make it easier to put the thing away, and let's just look at this case really quick. While I love the fact that they send you this with a nice little carrying case for it, it is sometimes very difficult to get it back in there. I find that you have to loosen up all the axes and then kind of just push it back in there. It's a little bit of Tetris action, but it does fit, but axis locks would make that a little bit easier. So maybe on the next one you can put those axis locks in there, that'd be great. And one last thing I kind of find a little irritating about the gimbal is when you go to flip it into undersling mode, undersling, upside down, I don't know. You have to hold the trigger and flip it, and going down is pretty simple, but coming back up it always feels a little sketchy. It comes down to a bit of practice, it's all in the wrist, right? But it doesn't feel great, and sometimes the gimbal does go in a weird direction and you have to kind of fight it to get back to where it needs to be. DJI also has an app that allows you to control the gimbal. You'll actually have to connect the gimbal at least once if you buy it, and that's just to activate it on the first time use. But I encourage you to play with the app. To me, the app is what really opens up so many creative opportunities. Not only does the app allow you to set like the speed and responsiveness of the gimbal, but it also allows you to time-lapse, motion-lapse, programmable video movement. You can do a ton of stuff really easily within the app. It's all controlled by keyframes, you can program the gimbal where you want it to go. It's really simple to pick up and just start making cool stuff. Ultimately, the DJI Ronin S is a fantastic gimbal with a ton of options to help you yeet your camera around in a stable manner. It's well built and it'll serve you well. And with that price decrease, it's a pretty damn hard offer to pass up. And I'm giving the DJI Ronin S 8 Owen Wilson Wows out of 10. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you as always. Make sure you hit subscribe, follow me on MySpace. Can someone do that please? Cause I'm tired of I'm tired of asking it. And also we got the Discord, all that fun stuff. Come hang out with me and show me your Instagram stuff. Alright guys, I'll see you next week. I love you. It's well built, and here's some, that'd be pretty cool. Anyway, the motivation on that said though, so I got it. It helps keep, this is just so that you guys feel for how the different, fuck you.